السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
آمين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. I was discussing the era of Hazrat Umar bin Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu during his Khilafat. Today I will be discussing about the Battle of Yarmouk. According to the historians, we do have a difference of opinion about this Battle of Yarmouk. But what is close to the fact is that this battle took place in the 15th year of Hijrah. According to others, it was after the victory of Yemen. But the truth is, when the news reached Hazrat Umar, was the battle of Hazrat. That is the time when Hazrat Abu Bakr had already passed away. But in any case, after the fall of Damascus, the news to go to Medina about the conquest, it was in the time of Hazrat Umar, because this is when the battle was fought. When the Romans were defeated, they left Damascus and Khims and they reached Antakya. Antakya is one of the cities of Syria which is on the border. They also sought help from Herkal that the Arabs have conquered many parts, and they were called upon. They called a council, and then they said, the Arabs, they are very weak. They are weaker than you. They are small in numbers. How come you cannot defeat them? Why can't you stand against them? And no one could respond to the king. But one experienced old man said that the Arabs' morals, the Arabs' behavior are very better than ours. They pray, they fast, they're not cruel to one another, and they love one another, they work together. But our condition is we drink, we are engaged in all sins, we don't care for one another. Rather, we torture one another. But for the Arabs, they are very, very confident and they are very steadfast. But whatever we do, we are never steadfast. And of course, Caesar had already made a decision to leave. But people were coming to Caesar and were demanding to put up resistance. And then they wanted Caesar to use his power so that they spend all the power against the Arabs. The Rome, Constantinople, Armenia, they sent people from these areas. And then they decided to have a date to meet in Antakya. And they wrote to all the provincial governors and they demanded that as many people they could gather, they should gather their armies. And before this could happen, the people gathered, and it was a big army that was gathered there. Then Hazrat Abu Ubaidah, who had already conquered the areas around, that in spite of the difference of opinion, there were already some spies who could give news, and then they sent news to Hazrat Abu Ubaidah, and then he stood and gave a speech, and the gist of the speech was that all Muslims, God has already tried you many times. And of course, you have passed his trials and tests. And now God has given you victories, has supported you at all times. Now the opponent is ready to fight you. And there are so many that even the land is shaking. Yazid bin Sufyan, who was a brother of Muawiyah, he stood up and said that my opinion is that let's leave the ladies and children in the city and we fight outside the city. And then Khalid and Amr bin As were written letters that they should come from Damascus and also from. And this is clear that, of course, Damascus was already conquered. Sharabil said that we should take opinions from different people. Of course, Yazid has given an opinion, but mine is different from his. And he said that all the people of the city are Christians. How come if we leave our family, they can capture them, or they can even kill our people. They can kill our families. And then Hazrat Abu Ubaidah said that it's better we should drive the Christians away. And then Sharabil said, "Oh Amir, well, you don't have the right to drive them away. Of course, we signed a treaty, we gave them amnesty that you will be safe in this city. Then how can we go against our agreement, the amnesty we've already given to these people, that we drive them out of the city?" And then Hazrat Abu Ubaidah realized his mistake, but they could not decide on what action should be taken. Those who were present, they were saying that we should wait for the support from Khims, and Abu Ubaidah said, where is the time to wait for help? And in the end, they said, let's forget about Khims. Let's go to Damascus. And Khalid is there, and of course, he's close to the border. And once this was decided, Hazrat Abu Ubaidah talked to Hazrat Abu Ubaidah, called the commander and said that whatever tax, whether it's kharaj or jizya, now it is so delicate that we cannot hold this. Of course, this was for their protection, but now we can't protect them anymore. So whatever has been collected from them should be returned. Whatever tax, whatever jizya has been collected, we should given back to them. And then they said, okay, of course, because we can't protect you, because this was given in lieu of your protection, so that we can be able to protect you. This we are giving you back because at the moment we cannot fulfill that condition. And the Christians were crying and they were saying, may Allah bring you back. And they were sad to see that the Muslims are leaving them. And then they said that as far as we leave, Khaisar can never take their city back. And then they stood guard or at every gate of the city. Abu Ubaidah did not treat the people of Khams only in this way, but in all the provincial areas where they had already conquered those places, he ordered that the jizya, the tax which was collected, should be returned to the people like it was done in Khims. Then they started going to Damascus. And of course, he had to inform the commander-in-chief, Hazrat Umar bin Khattab. And then Hazrat Umar was sorry about this. But when he learned that all the army and all the commanders have decided to do this, then he was content with the decision. And then he said, if God has joined all the Muslims to make this decision, there is a reason why this is happening. We also find other narratives that first Hazrat Umar was asked, the opinion was sought from Hazrat Umar, and then he said that whatever you have collected, you should give it back to the people. But Hazrat Umar, he wrote back that I'm sending Said ibn Amr in support. But the defeat doesn't depend on numbers. And as Hazrat Ubaidah, when he reached Damascus, he gathered all the commanders and then he addressed them. Yazid bin Abu Sufyan, Sharabil bin Hasna, Mu'adh bin Jabal, all these Sahabas, they gave different opinions. And Hazrat Amr bin As's envoy came with a letter. And the letter was that in different areas there's uprising. And leaving Khims to come here has shown some cowardice from your side. But Abu Ubaidah said, our leaving was not out of fear, but what we wanted is to gather troops. And also he wrote in the letter that you should not leave where you are. We're coming for help. Hazrat Abu Ubaidah, on the different day, he went and then camped in a place called Yarmouk, where the Jordan River flows. There's a valley around that place. That's where they camped. Hazrat Amr bin As also came and they all met in that place. They chose this place because it was easy to access other areas of the Arab, and it was easy to fight because there was an open front and they could retreat whenever they wanted. And whatever the army which was being sent for support had not reached the Muslims, and the Muslims were wondering how to face the big army ahead of them. Hazrat Umar sent another envoy, an emissary, and then he told them that the Romans are ready to fight you, and that everywhere there are armies who are coming to, who are prepared for you. But after Hazrat Umar read a letter which was carrying all this information, and all the Sahaba were crying to listen and to learn what was taking place. And then he said, "O Amir Mu'mineen, give us the permission to go and support our brothers and to fight with them. Because if they are wiped out, then our living is meaningless." Until Hazrat Abdurrahman bin Auf stood and said, "O Amirul Mu'mineen, you should become the commander." and take us with you to join our fellow companions. But others differed from this, and they opted to send support. And then Hazrat Umar asked the envoy, the emissary who had come, that how far are they from the enemy? And then he said, they're about 3 miles away from each other. And then Hazrat Umar said, now it is too late. How can we support them? How can we join them? Then he had to write a letter which was very emotional. And then he said, whenever you deliver this letter, read it yourself and say, Umar is sending salam to you, the commander-in-chief of the Muslim army. And then tell them, all Muslims, you should fight courageously. You should attack like animals. And even if their numbers is more than you, you should not fear you. They should not scare you. And then it was a coincidence that when the emissary came to Hazrat Abu Ubaidah, Sayyid bin Amr had come with the support of 1,000 army. And then the Muslim, they received this support and also the message from their commander-in-chief, and they fought with a lot of fortitude and strength. Qabbas won for Maisra. Hasham bin Makba was in commander for the Masroor bin Masroor, Amr bin Tufail. All these were commanders commanding different battalions. Of course, there were some people who were very warriors, and there was someone called Farasul Arab. The Arab, there were about of course, the enemy, they were coming with their commanders, and then the Arabs, they attacked, and then the Arabs attacked. And then he said, I want to fight alone. Mirza bin Masroor and Harif was very, very young. He looked at Qumais bin Umaira and he was reciting poems. And then he attacked with such speed. And then he fought him. And then Takmiq fell from the horse when the Muslim attacked, and then the enemy died. And then this was a sign to the Muslims that if God wills, they will conquer their army, the opponent army. The Christians, they prepared battalions against Khalid, but they were all being defeated, and they had to postpone the fight. But when the Romans realized they're being defeated, then the commander-in-chief Burhan gathered the troops and then said that now the Arabs have tested the wealth we have. We should give them money so that we send them away. Let us buy them off. And they sent an emissary. They sent an envoy to Hazrat Abu Ubaidah. And then they said, we want to discuss about the agreement about an amnesty and a treaty. And Hazrat Jash is the one who brought the message. They have written as Judge in other books. For the Arabs, this is Judge. But at the time when he reached, it was already evening. And the Maghrib prayer was closed. And then the Muslims started to pray. And they prayed very peacefully. And the envoy, when he saw the Muslim praying, he was so taken by surprise. And then he started asking Hazrat Abu Ubaidah. And the first one was that, what is your opinion? What is your faith and belief about Hazrat Isa? And then Hazrat Ubaidah recited these verses that Inna mathala Isa inda Allahi ka mathali Adam khalaqahu min turabin thumma qala lahu kun fayakun. Ya ahl al-kitab la taghlu fi dinikum wa la taqulu ala Allahi illa al-haqq. إنما المسيح عيسى بن مريم إنما المسيح عيسى بن مريم رسول الله وكلمته ألقاها على مريم ألقاها إلى مريم وروح منه فآمنوا بالله ورسوله ولا تقولوا ثلاثة انتهوا خير لكم إنما الله إله واحد إنما الله إله واحد سبحانه أن يكون له ولد سبحانه أن يكون له ولد له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وكفى بالله وكيلا. لن يستنكف المسيح أن يكون عبدا لله ولا الملائكة المقربين ولا ملائكة المقربون. That the condition of Jesus is like that of Adam before God. He created Adam from soil, and then he said, be, and he started being. O people of the book, do not transgress, do not exaggerate in your teachings, and don't worship anything about Allah, because Jesus, Isa, son of Mary, is nothing but a prophet of God, and it was a glad tidings which was given to Maryam, and it was a mercy to her from God. So believe in your in the prophet, and don't say that there are three. God is only one, and he is free, that he has a child, and whatever is in the heavens and the earth belongs to him. And whose protection can you seek besides the protection of Allah? Jesus would not well, the commentators and the translators, they translated these verses, and then he said that indeed these are the attributes of Jesus, and your religion must be right. And he recited kalima and joined Muslims, and he did not even want to return back. But Hazrat Abu Ubaidah, that thought that the Romans might think that we killed him, then he said, you go with our envoy whom I'm sending back, and then after that you can come back. And then Hazrat Khalid went to the army. And of course they were more prepared. And of course the people were prepared and were ready. But Hazrat Khalid, when he saw that some which were not even ready, but when he saw, he went to Burhan's tent, and then he welcomed him. And then he sat him next to himself, and then they started discussing. And after discussion, they started talking. And then after Jesus, he mentioned the name of Caesar. And of course, the envoy was saying that, and the translator, the interpreter, had not even interpreted these. And then he stopped him, and he said that your king will be like this, but what you have made our leader, we will depose him the moment he claims to be a king. And then he carried on with his speech, and then he said, "O Arab, people came and stayed in your land. And we thought that you'll appreciate this. But this has gone against our wishes, and then you attacked us. And now you want to drive us out of our country. You don't know that many people have tried this before, but they have never succeeded in their intention of driving us out of our land. Now, whatever you are in the world, there is no one who is worse than you. You have no power. How did you get the courage, or how do you gather the courage to attack us? But in any case, we forgive you. We overlook that. But if you choose to return, we shall give the offers. We offer your commanders 10,000 dinar, and we shall give 100 dinars to each of the soldiers and everyone with you. Of course, they had a strong army which they had collected to wipe out the Muslims, but they realized they can't fight them. And as he finished the speech, then Hazrat Khalid stood, and after praising Allah, he said that, of course, no doubt you are rich people, you have the power, and the treatment your treatment against the Arabs, we're aware of what has been the past treatment with us. Of course, you wanted to spread your religion. Most of them, they are Christians. And of course, many of them have joined you to fight us. It is true that we are very needy. We are poor. And also our ignorance was to the level that we used to fight and kill each other. We would fight for years and centuries. But God has had mercy upon us. And he sent a messenger who was from amongst us. And he was the one who was most humble, who was the purest. He taught us about the unity of God. And then he said, there is none worthy of worship except Allah, who has no partner. He is unique. He also ordered us and commanded us that we should also spread the message he brought to the entire world. And whoever believes in it, he's our brother. And whoever refuses, he's supposed to give jizya. And who refuses both conditions, then we have to fight. So whatever and of course he said that we don't give jizya, rather we take jizya. And then Hazrat Khalid stood up, and then he came, and then they had to fight. After Hazrat Khalid returned, then Burhan gathered other people, and then he said that the Arabs say that unless you are not safe from their attack, are you ready to be their slaves? And then the army was saying they would rather die than becoming slaves to the Arabs. And then the Muslims also, when they saw that the army was prepared to fight them, and then when Hazrat Khalid saw this, that the Romans are coming out in full force, then Hazrat Khalid devised another way. And then he prepared his army, and then he distributed the army, and he had different fronts. Qalb was given to Ab, and then the battle on the right hand side was to another commander, and he prepared them and gave them different battalions, the right, the left, and then those who had the experience. And Hazrat Khalid was a good speaker, who was a motivational speaker, And then they also appointed other people, and Hazrat Abu Sufyan was also another inspirational and a motivational speaker. And then Sufyan said, Ya Allah, you people, you are the people with the supporters of Islam. And those are the people who are supporting shirk and supporting their wrong. Oh God, help your people. And then Hazrat Amr bin As was also another speaker who was telling his people that, oh, my people, go down on your knees and pray to Allah. But when your enemy comes to attack you, you have to wait for them to come close to you. And when they are close by, you should attack them like animals attack their prey. And then you are worshipping that Allah who rewards the good deeds, who punishes the wrong deeds. And God has given you victory. And like has given you victory before, He can give you another victory today. This should not scare you. The numbers you see before us, they should not scare you. But these people, they are just like birds. They are like quails. They will just fly away like birds. Though the Muslims were not over 35,000, but there were those chosen good fighters. They were amongst those who had seen the face of the Holy Prophet ﷺ. It was about 1,000 who had seen the Holy Prophet, and about 100 are the one who fought with the Holy Prophet ﷺ. And there were 10,000 who were from Hams. There were some people from Hamdan, Hawlan, these brave heroes who had come to fight. There were also some ladies who joined. Amir Muawiyah, Hind, a mother of Hazrat Abu Sufyan, also fought. And she used to say, she was urging the fighters that let's cut them. Jawari also was among the fighters. So even ladies were fighting with the Muslim men. And there's one lady also who died fighting in this battle. Hazrat Miqdad was reciting Surah Al-Anfal, where there is encouraging Muslims to fight. And the Romans, who were even wearing body armors, who didn't want even to have a cut on their bodies, they had tied their feet together. And then the fight started to continue. Hatim had a cross in his hand. And when someone saw him, he said, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, what a big army. And Hazrat Khalid remained silent. And then he said, Hazrat Khalid said, I don't even care even if they double the numbers. And the Muslims remained steadfast. But when the right battalion was cut off from the army, then they were pushed back. And then when the ladies saw that the men were being pushed back, then Hazrat Hind, the wife of Hazrat Abu Sufyan, took a stick, and then other ladies ran with her. And then when they saw that Abu Sufyan was striking the horse, he said, you must return, let's fight again. We must push them back. And according to another narrative, they say that Hind took the stick to the Arabs and said, rather he said to the Romans that you are against Allah. Now this is the time to fight for the religion of Islam and also to please God. And then she said, this is the time for me to give my ultimate sacrifice. And then she took the sword and the stick she had and then attacked. And Hawla also was among reciting that Ya harban an taqiya fa an qalilin ma tara sabiya wala haziyatin wala raziya. She was reciting that all people who are running, you will see very soon that we have captives, and they won't like what will happen. And seeing this, Mu'az bin Jabal, who was in charge of the battalion which was being pushed back, he said that I'll leave the horse, but anyone who wishes to take the horse, you can take the horse. And then the son said, I take the horse. And then the son and the father, they advanced again with such force that Zubaydah, who was also with another battalion, they stopped the onslaught. And they still the Christians also put up resistance. But no, the people were being killed, but they were not moving, they were not budging. And Amal bin Tufail, who was also a leader, he remained fighting the enemy. And 9 were killed at his hands, and then he was killed eventually. Hazrat Khalid was waiting behind, but all of a sudden he attacked. And then one of the Muslims said that all Christians have fought with the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and don't think that I can push back in any way. And then who takes a pledge of death? And then about 100 people, they moved forward and they said, we are ready to die. And then Akrima saw some people, and then Khalid had it was thinking that Hazrat Umar maybe was wrong that we won't be killed. But the Romans were taking lives of so many companions. But Khalid attacked with such force that Hazrat Khalid went up to Unjar, who was the commander-in-chief, and then he put a handkerchief on his face. He did not want to see the defeat, as he was seeing that the Muslims are advancing. And as the fight was getting to the peak, unfortunately, there were some people who used to live in Syria, and they were giving the taxes to the Romans. So because they feared the Romans before, when they saw the attack, they moved back. But the Romans had already, they were pushing back the opponent. Of course, they were pushing the Romans back. Qubbas bin Hashim, from Sa'id bin Hashim, Yazid bin Abu Sufyan, Amr bin As, Shurabil bin Hasana, there were commanders who were fighting. They fought with such fortitude, and they had an absolute command. And they said that we took a pledge that we won't leave the battlefield. We have to die or either go back victorious. Abu al-Awar he jumped off from the horse and said, the best, I can't miss to see victory or martyrdom. And then, as the Romans wanted to attack the Muslims attacked like lions. And then the brother of Muawiyah was fighting. And then Abu Sufyan, who was commanding, he saw the sun, and then he said, "Oh, my son, every Muslim soldier is showing courage, and now it would be a disgrace if everybody is killed in your command, under your command." And then there was another Sahaba who was reciting these verses, that inna Allah ashtara min al-mu'minina anfusahum wa amwalahum bi anna lahum al-jannah yuqatiluna fi sabilillah wa yuqtalun. That God, in exchange for paradise, God has taken the lives of the Muslims, and God has bought them in exchange for paradise. And when the people were listening to these verses, then they returned back, and then Sharabil commanded the army, and then they started moving the enemy back. And then he was saying that if anyone turns away, then you don't have to look at me afterwards. Though the Romans had the upper hand, and they had already weakened the right-hand side of the Muslim army, then the attack was so fierce that the Romans could not resist the second wave of attack. And then Qalb went and attacked as a commander. And then they started moving until they reached at a Kano, which was behind them, and then they were defeated in a very strange way. It is worth remembering this battle, that when the place in Ghamsan was being conquered, of course there were other fights in other places, and people were looking for each other. But there was a Muslim whose leg was cut off, but he did not even realize the pain. And then they were looking. He looked for his leg afterwards, and then the people of his tribe were proud of this. There is a difference of opinion. Azdi and Tabri, they mention the enemy to have been killed over 100,000. Others say it was only 3,000. Akrama, Israel bin Azwar, Hasham bin Asi, Habban bin Sa'id, these were among the Muslim soldiers who were killed. And then of course the news reached Antakya and Constantinia. And then Abu Ubaidah wrote Hazrat Umar as well. And Huzaifa bin Yaman was among those to take the news. And Hazrat Umar did not sleep for a long time. And then after receiving the news of victory, he fell in prostration in sajda and thanked God. Of course, because people had to move from Khims, and the jizya was given back. Regarding this incident, Hazrat Muslim Maud writes about this, and then he said that the Muslims advanced up to Jerusalem, and they were advancing further down. And when the Christians saw that that even their center is going into the hands of the Muslims, they announced another war against the Muslims, and they prepared an army to fight against the Muslims. And though the Muslims were small in a number, and the commander-in-chief wrote Hazrat Umar that the enemy is so much, there are so many number, and the proportion is so less. If you give us permission, we should retreat and then prepare again, so that we are able to face the enemy when we are already prepared. And then they had written that what should we say regarding, or what should we do with those from whom we took jizya. And Hazrat Umar wrote back, he said, retreating is not wrong, but remember, you took the jizya you took from the people you conquered was on the condition that you protect them. But if you know that you won't be able to protect them, it is better to return whatever you had collected from them in lieu of their protection. And when the command of Hazrat Umar reached the Muslims, the commander-in-chief called the army, and also they returned the jizya to the people they had collected it from. And the message was very clear that we had collected this taxation, this jizya, in lieu of your protection, so that we can protect you. But because we can't protect you, we are moving away to join the Muslim army. You better take back the jizya, and you are now on your own. Now, this was such an example from the Muslims, from the commanders, that we don't see anything like this in the annals of history. In the books of history, we don't find such examples. And of course, the Muslim, they were prepared. Of course, we see that other armies, they loot. But it is only, we see that in the period of Hazrat Umar, where there was an opportunity to even loot what is not yours, the Muslim never looted. And this is the example we have. We don't see that a conqueror conquered a place and then took even jizya and taxes from them, and then after that returned it. And of course, the Christians, they were so much affected by this, and they were so much impressed seeing this. And in spite of the fact that this was made to be a religious war, and the Christian center was under the Islamic rule, and seeing everything that even the ladies, they were moving with the army, Hazrat Muslim Maud writes and gives, who had Hazrat Umar was asked, according to the second Caliph, and the tax which was returned after asking Hazrat Umar. And Hazrat Muslim Maud, regarding Ikramah, he writes and said that the young Yarmouk and the Muslim were being killed. The Hazrat Abu Ubaidah, who was the commander-in-chief, Hazrat Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah, saying that the Muslims were being killed, he said, I wish we could have an army which could fight against the Romans. And then one companion came forward and said, give me a choice to choose some companions to fight with. And at that time, the general was fighting so fiercely from the Roman side. And then he was saying that people were being instigated that anybody who comes, and then if we defeat the enemy, anyone who kill the commander for the enemies, I'll give them my own daughter and I'll give them wealth. And then the Romans, they stood to fight the Muslims. And as that Ikrimah collected about 400 troops and a troop of 400 men, and they started fighting the enemy. And there were only 400 Muslims. So the fight was not easy. Though they killed the general and the enemy was scattered, most of them were killed. They 400 Muslims were there, and only there were 12 who were injured. And Ikrimah brought some water to drink, but when he looked at his side, Fazal, son of that Abbas, was also injured. And then Ikrimah said, I can't, the people who helped the Holy Prophet when I was enemy of the Prophet then, how can I let their son to die of thirsty and then I drink water to survive? Give him first. If anything, then give me later on. And then when he came to him, he pointed to the next one. And then the next one pointed to the next one. That my brother needs it more than I need it. And as he moved, the army was giving preference to his brother. But when he returned, as he came back, Ikrimah and everybody he had walked past who sacrificed for others, they had already died. This is what took place, and this is what is being discussed, and we shall carry on with the same subject in the future as well.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayhi wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله عباد الله رحمكم الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر.
بمطلع على أسرار باري بعالم بعالم عيبتي في كل حال، بمطلع على أسرار بالي، بعالم عيبتي في كل حال، بوجه قد رأى أعشار قلبي، بمستمع لصرخي في الليالي، بوجه قد رأى أعشار قلبي، بمستمع لصرخي في الليالي. لقد أرسلت من رب كريم رحيم عند طوفان الضلال، فلا تقف الظنون بغير علم، وخف أخذ المحاسب ذي الجلال. ترى آيات صدقي ثم تنسى، لحاك الله ما لك لا تبالي. تعال إلى الهدى ذلا خضوعا، إلى ما تكتسي ثوب الدلال. وإن ناضلتني فترى سهامي، ومثلي لا يفر من النضال. سهامي لا تطيش بوقت حرب، وسيفي لا يغادر في القتال. فإن حربا فحرب مثل نار، وإن سلم فسلم كالزلال. فإن حربا فحرب مثل نار، وإن سلم فسلم